Hey, welcome everybody to the Sisterhood. My name is Michelle, your host, and my co
Hi,
host.
everyone. I'm Rochelle, and welcome to Sisters in Insurance.
Yes. So today's episode, we are going to talk about mental health among African American women. We have an article that we will link in the show notes, and it is titled Mental Health Among African American Women, and it is by Dr. Erica Martin Richards. This is from the Hopkins Medicine website, and we are just going to have a discussion with regards to that. So I am going
Right.
to shoot this over to Rochelle to lead the conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Welcome to this week's episode regarding mental health. I think it's mental awareness, right? I think we, as a society as a whole, look at, there's a negative connotation with mental illness and mental stressors. And I think low on the totem pole are Black women, women of color who we tend to, are the caregivers, caretakers of our family, even at work sometimes. And the last person on the total pool would be
Hmm.
yourself. And that additional anguish and strain of just living life, right? Life could be stressful at times, and you go through periods where not only is life stressful, then you have a maybe potentially high stressful, impactful job as well too. And so you're trying to maneuver those two things. And I think as women, we just double down, right? We just say, hey, we're going to throw more at it, more time, more energy, as opposed to taking a step back and saying, hey, how do I really feel about this? Am I taking care of myself emotionally? Do I have the capacity? And I think as Black women, we always take on more, right? People come to you and say more. I remember earlier in my career in insurance, I was the yes person. Like if my boss gave me another, oh, sure, I'll take that on. Sure, I'll do this. But I was finding myself burning the candle at both ends. I was working on weekends, just trying to keep up with my regular workload plus whatever special projects. And one time, boss came to me and said, sometimes you can say no. It's okay. I didn't know what no was. And I think many women uh, don't understand the word no or how to, at least for me, this was partly my issue and not understanding. I knew how to say no. I just didn't know how to say no in a pleasant way, right? I grew up in inner city. How we dialogue and interact with one another is kind of a little more harshly. Not everyone, so this is not a typecast for whole society of inner city America. But the way I would say no would be, no, no, I'm not doing that, right? And I didn't want to have to. I didn't know how to softly say no in
Hmm.
corporate, right? To be very respectful, like, hey, no, I don't have the capacity for that at this point in time. I would really love to do that, but not right now, right? Maybe later on, right? And so it took me years of practicing no corporately to finan- finagle and finesse me saying no and it being okay and acceptable because typically somebody you tell no to, they're really upset about it. They're mad. I don't want people to be angry and mad at me, but that compounds the effect of you can't say no and take time for yourself and really understand how are you feeling in these situations. I have a hard time pointing out when I'm stressed. I don't know when I reach stress level, right? I've just been operating in this high stressful environment, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, and I don't even know if I'm stressed or not. That's very, and that's an issue I have with myself because I should know when I'm stressed, right? It's me, it's my body. I should be like, you know what, right now I'm stressed out. I'm gonna take note of this.
Hmm.
I'm gonna take a moment to take to myself here. I'm gonna, seek out my counselor and set up a couple appointments so I can have someone to talk to. Michelle, you're a mom. You work full time mom. You're a wife, right? Your sister, your daughter. You're a cousin. You sit on boards. I mean, you do a lot. I mean, I don't have children and I don't have that added stress, but I can't imagine as a parent because your stress level is totally different because you got three kids. Like you're trying to mind them and so how do you deal with stress, or how are you aware when you're stressed out or your social cues of your
Woo.
mental awareness?
Well, at this point, I don't think I realize when I'm stressed
Mm-hmm.
out at all. I realize when I'm stretched
Mm-hmm.
thin and I can't devote the amount of time that I need to on certain projects. The one time that I knew that I was stressed out and I was like having a mental break was when I had my third child. and I wasn't sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I was there was some thoughts going on, like straight thoughts. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Why did I just have this third child? What is going on? And I called
Mm-hmm.
up my mom crying, and I don't do that. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's a big thing.
Right. So
Like I
mom was
called up my
like,
mom
oh.
crying,
Mm-hmm.
saying, yes, it was serious. She was like, all right, I'm coming. And then my sister came too,
Mm-hmm.
and I slept for I just needed like 2 nights.
A good
That's all
sleep.
I needed
Mm-hmm.
was 2 nights of sleep, and I felt recharged. I felt recharged and everything. But at this stage, the boys, they're getting older, so they're not toddlers. They
Mm-hmm.
don't need nearly as much time. And when they were toddlers, I was getting my MBA, and it was a bit rough, trying to keep up with accounting and trying to keep up with finance and all the classes, and the marketing strategies and all that other stuff. But I strategically picked an executive MBA program because I needed to be in the school. I needed
Oh,
to have
awesome.
like a certain amount of time that was every day, and I went through it with a cohort for 18 months. So I was really happy that I did that. And yeah, I wasn't around, but the boys weren't old enough to start doing
Mm-hmm.
activities yet. Now that there are activities, let me tell you, that is a whole different ball of wax because we were over scheduled before COVID. I mean, we had an activity Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I think only
Was the rest.
Sunday we didn't have any. But if it was baseball, we would have games on baseball on Sunday. So
Mm.
somebody had an activity. COVID really like shut that down for us, and now we're really conscious of
Activities.
how many activities that the boys have. We're really conscious about doing family
Mm-hmm.
things. We're really conscious about. I'm the vacation planner, so I'm like I make sure that we have vacations. I don't care what's going on, but we go on vacation at least once a year. I don't. It doesn't matter where it is. Doesn't like we'll figure it out. It could be a staycation where we're just driving around Connecticut, and we've done that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we will do that. Work wise, like you said, you had a problem saying no. I still have a problem saying no, and it just hit me this year when I actually had to pull myself back because I was starting Sisters in Insurance. I'm on a board. I am also leading a group of future leaders for my company, and we're starting to do in person meetings, which takes a lot more time and effort versus the virtual. And then I am also part of NAYA as a member, and I was a program committee
Mm-hmm.
member, and they asked me to be the communications co-chair. And at when that happened, it got to the point where I couldn't devote my time that needed to have that
Okay.
particular organization needed to have as co-chair. So I actually stepped back from that one because there's a whole social media revamp that I just did not have the capacity or the time to devote to it, especially trying to get Sisters in Insurance off the ground. Doing the board work, I'm trying to get my task force into a committee and working on that one.
Right.
Like there's just a lot going on. I tend to compartmentalize a lot of things. So I'm a schedule person. I have a schedule. I got to stick to that schedule. And if people are late, that makes me mad. Like that makes me mad. And then you're about to
Oh,
be
wow.
dead to me. But then but that's how I have to work. Like because I can't have this fluidity at this current moment where I'm flexible, and the flexibility is for my family. It's not
Mm-hmm.
for work. Like I'm in
Right.
work, I do my work, and then when I'm off, I'm off. And now I'll do all my like not committee work. I'll do like the work where I'm leading the group during work hours because that's a part of my job.
Job.
But like anything else, I may we got an hour. I may commit X amount of time to this. This is what happens, and this is it. But like Sisters in Insurance, this takes a lot of time, and my family understands. I reading the article about mental awareness and everything, the whole irritability gets
Mm,
got me. Like when
nice.
you realize when you're having this stress, the irritability, I get
Right.
irritable. I get very, very irritable, and that's the way I deal with it,
Right. And
unfortunately.
unfortunately, too, when you say like,
So it's
excuse me, understanding your cues that like, hey, right now I'm having an episode, or right now I am stressed out, or I have anxiety, or I'm frustrated. Um, and understanding that piece about yourself, I think in society, mental awareness, mental health is such, sometimes if you're seeking treatment is a negative connotation, but people always seek treatment, whether they do substance abuse or alcohol or drugs, things of that nature. They abuse themselves in certain situations
mhm,
and relationships. So there is, people look for coping mechanisms, and sometimes it's a negative coping mechanism. But I think society puts on the pressure that, oh, if you say you have I need a mental day, it's something wrong with you, or that you can't have a down day, or you can't have a day where you're not feeling 100% right, or you may feel sad that day. And I think too, the social pressures for Black women, we do a lot, and we take care of our families. A lot of times we're taking care of, definitely your immediate family, your children,
mhm,
husband, things of that nature. But then you also have, like, if you have aging parents or you have a sibling, right? Me and my husband, we raised one of
mhm.
his nieces, right? And even at work, I didn't want anyone to know, right? I was like, I'm not telling people this. I'm just gonna do what I need to do, and it became a point of like I need to access and tap like resources from work. So I kind of had to tell my boss, and you know,
Mhm.
um, oh, she's like, I didn't, like really taken aback. Like all this time you've been, and it was like 2 years in, like all this time you've been taking care of not only your niece but your mother as well. Like she's like, how are you dealing with all this? In my brain, I'm like, you deal with it. You put the stuff, put a schedule together. You make sure, blah blah blah. And she was like, I'm not trying to,
Yeah.
influence or but sometimes you might need to sit down and talk to someone. You have a lot of stress and pressures just living, and in addition to this, taking care of an elderly parent, a whole raising a kid that's not yours, things of that nature. And it was really the best advice because it helped us to get into family counseling, and giving my niece some therapy that she would definitely need, as well as ourselves. How
Mhm.
to and me and my husband were really freshly newly married. Like, how do you then, newly married, take on kid that's, raise a kid, exist with your mom and her illness and all this
Mhm.
stuff. But I didn't even know I wasn't aware. That was the whole piece of like self aware. I'm just like, this is how I feel. This is how you do. This is what you do to
Right.
get through, from that piece of it. And even when speaking to like some of my family members who thought, oh, that's weird. Why are you going to sit? Are you crazy? And you sitting on the couch, and I'm like, dude, everyone's been through something in life. And my motto is everyone at
Mhm.
minimum deserves 1 hour on somebody's couch. Now,
Yeah.
you might say after that, I don't need anything else, but you deserve that 1 hour on
Yeah.
someone's couch. I mean, I think in general in life, we've all been through a lot of things that, whether it's positive or negative, that we need to talk to someone to sort out how we feel about things from that piece of it. And definitely moms who are struggling.
And that is very true. And I'm yeah, and I'm not going to hide this fact. My kids are in therapy. Like we were struggling this past year, and I mean I was struggling around December, like the winter time,
Hmm.
with trying to keep my children on the straight and narrow after COVID, and we were just having behavioral issues. We were having behavioral problems, and trying to find the right resources, and just getting it. And I finally found it. My husband needed some resources. I tried talking to somebody, like
Hmm.
a therapist, but we didn't mesh. And this is one thing that people should know. Like
Yep.
it's
No
okay if
mesh.
you don't mesh with a
Absolutely.
therapist. My best therapy, my best therapy is talking to a friend.
Hmm.
Just talking it out. That's what I need to do, is talk out my situation. But that works for me. But my boys, they have a therapist to help with their behavior problems. Like we are trying to actively get them on the straight and narrow. A, we got the stigma of biracial black children because they're going to be
Hmm.
labeled as black, black mom, and I don't need them to have any negative connotations being a child of color in in a white school system. Um, so like it's okay to get those outside resources and get the help and get the mental health that you need. And like I said, it's okay if you don't
A
mesh
new
with
one, right?
therapists. You can always find a new one. It's just a
Exactly. I think
personality.
I've been very
Find a new one.
very lucky in the sense of like meshing with the therapist that I sign up for. I've a total of actually four. One was a family therapist, which was really great. Another person it was coaching through work, balance kind of stuff when I was younger. My third therapist, it was a lot going on between my mom being ill, my husband being ill, raising this teenager and getting them through their like senior year. And it was just a compounding. Like I said, I can't really understand when I have
Hmm.
stress. I don't know, like, oh, I'm stressed out. I need to take a pinch back. Um, but I got a pinched nerve, and I was like, this is, like I was reading, like, why would you get and it
Oh.
was like stress, right? Because it was like physically I hadn't did anything to get a pinched nerve, but it was like so much stress. So seeked out this one counselor, and this is my only time having a negative experience. I think it's so important for people to understand that although you may not mesh well, you might have a bad experience with this one counselor for that one session. That doesn't mean like it's not going to work for you. You just have to find someone that you mesh with. Even like as going to the doctor and having your annual exam, your
Hmm.
primary, you need to mess with them. Like I think in society, it's like the doctor they give you is the one you got
Hmm.
to go with. If you don't mess, if you don't feel
Yep.
comfortable, if you don't feel like they're giving you the information, you can find someone new. And so I was sitting on the couch, and it just so happened, and of course, it was a
Hmm.
white man. Who was a counselor, and I've had a white male before who was my family therapist, worked well, but this guy, he just wants to like sign me up for prescriptions. Like he was like, "Oh, I can prescribe this drug and I can give you this drug." And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
"I don't want
Mm.
any drugs. I'm like here to," and I went twice. I went the first time, and then the second time I'm regurgitating everything that I had told him the first time because he's not taking notes. I was like, "I'm done." I called. It's like this isn't working for me, and they was like, "Oh, I'm so
Oh
sorry.
yeah.
We'll
Mm-mm.
definitely get you someone else." And so I was able to find someone else. But yeah, I would it isn't. It's so important, just like you would for your child or anyone that you're caring for. Like if this doesn't work, then you would try to find the best resource for them. It's the same thing for yourself in mental health, finding a therapist or counselor who you can speak to, who you feel comfortable with, because it's all about the comfortability, right? If you don't feel comfortable with them, you're not going to share, right? And I feel like when you're in front of
Hmm.
a therapist, you're able to eat everything that you want to say that you probably wouldn't even say to your best friend. You can say to your therapist. They should be very objective, right? And they should provide you
Right.
with tools to help you cope as well as tools to help you manage through and get to the next level of that. And if you're not feeling that, then I say seek someone else that you
Hmm.
can, because that's so important. I think a lot of times too, when you don't mesh well, you feel like, oh, this isn't work, especially when you're skeptical, right? I think if I had onset of went to someone who was not a good therapist the first time, I
Hmm.
probably never would have returned because for me it was kind of saying like I have a problem with people are going to think about me for sitting on someone's couch and expressing to them how I feel, right? And that's a big
Right.
thing. But the credit to my boss who was like, hey, it's okay. We all go through stuff. I can't, she was like, I wish I could be your therapist. I can't. That's not what I'm trained to do. Right. So she, encouraged me to seek out help. And then I've been over the years just
Hmm.
introducing that to my circle of friends, family members, things of that nature who may look at it like, negative. But if they see their cousin, they see, like their niece, like going through therapy, they might be like, "Well, she's okay." Like, it isn't a such a negative stereotype. You know.
Right.
So when
Right. And we definitely don't want our society, people in our society, to get to the point where it is a dangerous situation with
exactly,
mental health.
exactly, and that's what we've
So
seen on
go to the therapist.
exactly, and that's what we've seen on in the media a lot of times, mental issues that people are having, and then they ultimately some form of demise, whether it's mass shooting, whether it's being shot by police officers, because police officers are not equipped either. And that's why I side on, you can't send a police officer for everything. Like someone having a mental episode, a police officer probably isn't the best person to
Mhm.
be sending to the scene, right? They're there to equip the, serve and protect.
Right.
This person needs help,
Mhm.
and they're not equipped to do so. So we should have the right resources. But over the years, I've definitely seen where communities of color who really need counseling. Like I just think our kids and communities like mine need so much therapy, right? They go through so many things and they see so much at a very young
Mhm.
age. But then in our school system, public school systems, we don't have those resources. And so you just grow up and you just take it, another bag to add on. And they're so
Yeah.
young, to face these things and
Mhm.
not have an outlet of how you deal with it. And if your parents don't know, then like you and Matt definitely understood and was like, hey, we're going to seek counseling for our kids. And, certain settings like similar to mine, parents are not equipped. They don't understand that's a resource. They don't know how to access it, right? And I think, if you're in impoverished communities, those resources are very far and few between, right? And so it breeds upon different conceptions of like mental
Mhm.
health and mental illnesses that we deal with day to day that go untreated. And you're like, oh, they're just, on drugs. Well, they're using drugs for a treatment, right? So, um, which, um,
Right. Exactly. And we've had them, and like I know in my family, I've had that. Like you know those that side of the
right. And
family.
you, exactly.
Not to make light of it, but you know what I'm
Right. And
talking
when you
about.
peel
Like,
back the onion, I think me and my husband talk about this all the time. Like, if you know the effects of what drugs does, why do you choose to use? And I say, I know there's a high percentage of people who use it to cope with different things that are happening. And you still have the party that has,
mhm,
the addictive personalities who's like, oh, yeah, let's go out and have fun. You see some of those. But at the same token, it's a coping mechanism for folks who don't
mhm,
have access to true first of all, who don't have access or even know of access. I think we've closed in communities like myself, like more than 50% of hospitals who specifically was designated for mental illnesses, right? And so you close those facilities and then you expect people to cope and deal by what
mhm.
measure, you know? So now, and then too, is a younger generation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's experiencing because it's social media. Like you're on social media all day, right? And this ad is telling you need to look this way, you need to act this way, you need to be this, and you're like, I'm so far from this. How do I even attain of getting, to this sort? So very interesting there too with the um, influence of social
Right.
media.
The media, the social media aspect of it, yeah, and that social media aspect of it all is just really a whole other ball of wax because it's just in your face. You can't get away from it. That's the difference with our generation versus this generation is that we could get away from a
Absolutely,
lot of the influence that could potentially negatively impact our mental health, but they can't get away from the influence. And how do you deal with the bombardment? And as Black women, we are dealt with the bombardment of how we are maybe inadequate, or you need to be your this way and you need to do this and you need to do that, and then if you're added in the parent guilt and how you're supposed to be acting as a parent, if and like you can't do X, Y, and Z, you can't do that, but yet you are doing it. So are you a bad person? And it
overwhelming.
is just I we got a lot going on in the world that is overwhelming and is coming at us constantly on how we're supposed to be and the how the ad agencies are telling us how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to act and how we need to be, and it doesn't help with turning on the news and everything's negative. It's really hard, and sometimes you just need to step back and really take care of yourself, just like they say on the in the flight. Like if you're traveling with somebody else and the airbags come down, you need to put your mask on before you put on somebody else's mask. You need to make sure that you can save
And
yourself
everybody else,
before you start
right,
trying to save somebody else. Like make
right.
sure you're okay before you start helping everybody else, because as women, we tend to be the anchor of our family. Black women are the anchor of their family, and time again, it has been shown that we are the anchor of our family. We are the ones keeping it together. And black men are coming up. Like black men are there. I'm not disparaging black men, but this is for black women. We are here. We cannot take care of everybody
And
if we
even
are
when
not
you
taking care of
learn that
ourselves
piece
first.
of discipline of taking care of yourself, you'll learn that you can't take care of everyone else. You will definitely understand, like, I can't help every cousin, every niece,
Right.
everyone, right? You can probably, if you want to assist pointing them in the right direction. I had a problem with that too. Very young on, I wanted to be a Captain Save everyone, right? Oh, I could probably help, or they call me for help. I had to, it was this thing of like, I had to say yes, right? In addition to fueling the I can't say no kind of thing, but then I would just take on too much and I wasn't living my best life. I wasn't taking care of myself mentally, enjoying life to what it was. I felt like everything was a chore, and had to get it done and then over. So, so I can help this person. And then I was like,
Mhm.
I just became, in a lot of senses, being an enabler to someone, a couple people, as opposed to, you don't need
Mm.
this saying at church, our pastor always uses, um, you don't want to hand out, you want to hand up, right? And those two things look totally different, giving a handout as opposed to a hand up to help a person. And it took me a lot of years to figure that out too, that piece of it, right? Where I'm not so innately like, oh, okay, just because you can't help doesn't mean you should, right? And then that responsibility too of being successful, being one of not a ton of successful people in my what we deem as success, and my family, more so financially secure, basically, and success in that sense. Being that person, and then being that person that everyone looked at for help
Mhm.
and assistance, and people call me about stuff about, knowledge about, they had a issue with, health issue. I'm not a doctor. That's not what I do for a living, right? Or you'll get these calls about like just random stuff, like, I guess because I'm educated, I'm financially secure, that I would know the answer for everything. I'm like, that's not what I do for a living. That's not, I mean, ask me an insurance question and kind of make it towards the specialty side because I'm not doing PNC, kind of thing. So, I wasn't fielding questions on insurance. I'm fielding questions of everything and all I could, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can help you find a resource. And I had to even just learn, like, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, hey, I have no clue. Now that I'm older, I have a big network. So maybe I have someone in my network I can say, hey, maybe I'll reach out to a friend or associate of mine. And, I know they may be familiar and maybe make a
Yeah.
connection. But I was everything. Like, I was like, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Or, I'm like, girl, you need somebody's couch time. Like, I can't help with this situation. I can, suggest a therapist maybe for you. Um, but that's that
Girl.
mental state, right? I think we give the world like we got it all in control. We know that we give
Mhm.
this perception of like, oh, well, she does know everything, so let me call her, right? And the trueness of it is we're just regular people like anybody else. We, have it on the outside, have it all together, right? But for you to
But we are.
pull together everything you do, Michelle, and then look not disheveled, on time for things. I mean, you have three boys who are active. Like that in itself right there, I'm done. Man down. I can't do this. Like, I don't know, but moms always look at moms. They seem to make the impossible possible.
Well, I do have an amazing husband who is very engaged, so that is part of the support that I have going on. And as I look into my living room right now, they are literally running around in their pajamas
Perfect. Sunday
and
morning.
shirtless and hair not combed. So they're not. So
Right?
it is what it is. Like at a certain point, you got
That
to give
part
up
right
control
there, that control part.
over things.
Right? It's not the end of the
Like,
world. It's not that big
okay,
of a deal. And I had to learn too, certain things weren't the end of the world. Like, it would be annoying to me
no,
if certain things weren't completed or if I felt like person didn't give
right.
their 100%. Guess what, Rochelle? It's not that big of a deal. Like, it doesn't matter. Okay, this isn't done. Yep, it'll be there tomorrow. Don't
Not
stress
the end of
out.
the
Like I
world.
used to have this thing, and this was why I was so obsessively late. And a friend of mine used to be a roommate. He got so PO'd at me one time, like literally stopped talking to me because he's like, "You're late," and I'm like, "Well, these are the things I was doing. I wasn't just kicking my heels up eating bonbons. I was like, I always used to do this list and I got to get everything done on this list before I can
Mhm.
do whatever it is or move to my next stage, right? And that would inherently make me late all the time. And people were just like, she's so disrespectful. And it
Mhm.
wasn't, but I had to learn like, I can't, it's okay if only two things on the list got done to five, right? It's not the end of the world. You put your best effort into getting this list completed. It'll be there when you get back or
Right.
tomorrow and you can start again. And I had to learn that piece of it too. Like you can't do everything and it's okay on that piece of it to let some things go. Like I'll probably be the mom that's like, kids, okay, it's
Right.
up. Let's, get in the bathroom, brush your teeth, wash your face, comb my hair, put on something presentable. Let's get some breakfast. And I would have tried to do all this before I started taping. That would be the part right there. And kids are not just cooperating, getting up super early on
Yeah.
the Sunday,
Mm-mm.
trying to be like, "Mom, really? Like,
Nah.
do you? Oh, I just want everything done,
No.
so when I'm done taping, we could just walk out the door." Life is not like that. So, even the pressures we put on ourselves to create
Like,
perfection,
where are we
right? And I
going?
think we do that a lot in the workplace, right? That we're perfect, because we go over and beyond to ensure that because we do over and beyond, we feel like we're just right at meeting at
Yes.
best, right? Right there, meeting y'all, right? And then you look at your counterparts and you're like, they're not putting that
Yes.
much effort and work
Right.
into it. And like, but we step up to the plate because we always feel like we're at a disadvantage walking up to the
Right.
plate. And so we try to overcompensate for what we potentially feel like people may look as a lack, which isn't a lack because we are there for a reason, right? We're in these positions for a reason, but you always come to the game table like, hey, I'm gonna stack it all my chips up, right? So that, you know,
Mhm.
I am up to par and on standard from that piece of it. And then that's what people think like, oh, you're perfect, Rochelle. Your files are so amazing. Like this is blah blah this. And you're like, I'm just doing my job. Like, but you add that additional stress, right? Because you feel like you can't make that mistake. And when
Yeah.
you
Like.
make a mistake, then it's like the ice, like at work, I wanted constructive feedback, but if I had a mistake, which it could be, I was like, oh my God, I would beat myself up for probably a month over something that was very simplistic. And you're like, it's insurance. We're not,
Mhm.
one of my bosses used to be
Yeah.
like,
No.
mm hmm, mm hmm. It's
Overanalyze
only
it.
insurance. We're not saving lives, people. So, but you felt like you would be
Yeah.
harshly judged or
We
your
are. We're not
consequences for
saving
that
lives here.
minute mistake may be severely bigger than someone else, right? In the same industry. So that's why we do that. But we create these atmospheres that we
Mhm.
can't sustain, and it's a ton of pressure on us to maintain that. And so then you start getting to issues of mental health issues that you're not accurately addressing, right? And you're compounding the effect of like not addressing those and not seeking help. And sometimes you just need somebody to talk to.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need somebody to talk to, and you know what? It's easier to find the right person when you're
Mm,
not in a moment
absolutely.
of crisis.
Oh,
So it's just like
mm-hmm.
going for a tune up, getting your car for a tune up, going for your physical, go like you said, going for your physical, going get your peepers checks because I can't see for anything. So I got
How is
contacts
that
and I got my
readers and
readers. So
contacts? So,
you know, you go to the dentist. I can't see for crap. So but like the regular checkups, you go to check to make sure everything's okay,
mm-hmm.
and mental health is part of it. You got to be able to take care of yourself.
As in
Like the
eating
article talked
healthy.
about sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
it talked about
Mm-hmm.
exercise. Like we all have our different methods of coping. And yeah, eating healthy and getting that rest and just a whole host of things that we can do to help ourselves be the best that we can, um,
It's so healthy.
and healthy. Essentially, the goal is to be healthy mentally, mind, body, and spirit. You go to church for your spirit, or whatever place of worship, or however you want to do it for your spirit. You go
Right.
to the therapist for your mental.
Exactly. Exactly.
You go to the doctor for your wellness. So you go to the they're different ways.
We're all here for
So,
it. Exactly.
and
Doing
we're all
what you
here
need to
for it.
do to be sound, and physically healthy as well as mentally fit, right? I think we don't talk about being mentally fit. We see all these things on, Instagram thing about being fit and the BBL and like making sure your body image is, what society has accepted piece of it, but that mental
Mm,
health and having a strategy in place, right? I don't constantly go to counseling, but I do those checkups, like those, hey, couple times a year, or I may start a session where I'm going for 4 months, regularly, and then say, oh, I feel really good, I'll wink off a little bit, and then, but ensuring that you
hmm
do understand what your resources are and you can tap into those resources as you need to. It's very important to mental stability, both personally and professionally, right? Because you don't want to have a meltdown at work, right? And then people are like eyeballing you, then, right?
No,
That story.
you don't want to be that story.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
You don't
although,
want to be that
I think
story.
now people are more heightened and sensitive around mental health and awareness because we've seen some things in the public that happened, like the tennis player who was like, "Today I can't do interview. I just can't mentally. I can't." And some days you walk into work and mentally you're not ready for it.
hmm
You don't want to be there. You want to be on, right? Especially if you're engaging and you're marketing and all that stuff. Some days you're just like, "I'm not feeling this," or "I have too much going on." And it's okay to check off, like, you can say, hey, today I'm taking a mental. Oh,
Well, you say, yeah. Well, you said you say like saying checking off, and some days you just don't want to. I have an actual example, like when the Uvalde shooting happened with those poor fourth graders, and I have a fourth grader. Well, now he's now going to be a fifth grader. I legitimately couldn't work that day when I heard the news. I called my
mm-hmm.
manager and I said, I'm out. I can't. I can't work today because it's just too much. It's too
The
much for me
shooting.
to handle. First, it was the Buffalo shooting, and then it was the school shooting, and then I
Right.
just couldn't do it.
Exactly.
Couldn't do it. Things affect us, and we got to
I
make
think
sure
a
that we
lot of
take
times I like
take
things
that
don't
time.
affect us, especially in the workplace, because you don't want to
Take
appear
that time.
weak. You don't want to appear, it's definitely the person, the woman of color in the room having to take a moment because, we battle against those stereotypes that they feel like we're lazy and like we don't get stuff done and we're not hard workers. And then you come in and say, I need some mental health day because it's a lot going on and I just can't process right now. We don't allow ourselves to do that because we feel like, we have to carry the world on our shoulder and we represent every person of color. And we want to make sure we do it in the most professional and um, positive way that we
hmm
possibly can, but we can't do that. You have to take a moment, you have to take that time. Even if it's meditating, even if it's like, hey, I'm taking a day, mental health day, to go walk in the park, go to the zoo, like live it, watch cartoons all day because you need something positive in your life, right? It's okay for that. And it's okay for you
hmm
to step aside and say, I need this and I need this resource that's available to you. And so, few times that we feel like we have no outlet or we have no resources, that we actually do. Um, and it's so vital, and you think about carrying around the stress. I read this one book called The Cast. I can't remember the article, but it was a really great book, and it was about racism in America, but it compared it to the caste system in India. And she did some research as well for Black men in corporate
Hmm.
America, that we tend to die earlier or we suffer from heart conditions. Like, although the person had been like healthy in a sense of like, exercise and eating the right things, because of the amount of stress placed, likelihood that they would die sooner or suffer from heart disease was concurrent, in the sense of like when they looked at professional Black men in different industries, right? Because you're carrying that stress and burden because you're like, hey, I got to come in here, not just for myself, but for the whole
Yeah.
of who I am as a Black person. Um, and that stress alone, untreated, is
Yeah.
deafening. From that piece of it, like even when Martin Luther King was shot and they did the autopsy of him, they were saying like his heart was like a man of a 90-year-old, like, and it was stress related, like, so you think about all the things that undo things that we
Mhm.
compound upon ourselves that we don't have a release and lever for, eventually you explode, right? On the outside, you look really good and healthy, but in mentally and emotionally, you're drained. But you keep
Hmm.
giving. How can you give from a pot that's empty?
Exactly. So with that said,
You
I want
link
that
that.
book that you mentioned. So we're gonna link that into this. Yeah, we're gonna link this, and then we're gonna link the article, and
Just
we're probably gonna put
exactly.
some links into some mental health resources also for those who are watching the Sisterhood. So we want to make sure that there are resources out there that you guys can go and get to. Really emphasize just we got to take care of ourselves mentally. We have to. It should be your priority, and however you do it, just gotta
Right.
make
Being
sure you're
aware
taking care of
and
yourselves,
being
ladies.
okay.
So I
Great.
think this conversation has been really great, Ro. Yep, yep. I think this conversation has been really great. Thanks, Ro, for leading everything. I appreciate you. I
Awesome. And we
appreciate you.
appreciate all of you
I just want
guys
to put that
for
out there.
coming on. Remember to comment, like, share on all social media platforms as well. And if you have something that you would like for us to talk about in the future episodes, please drop your comments. We are more than willing to entertain. Thanks so much, guys.